What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hold Up and Another Thing, presented by Mixed Vaz Media Company. You already know it's your boy, Mr. Bell. I'm here with another guest, Mr. JP. What's going on?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to have you on. Reached out in the group. I need a guest platform on Facebook, and your comment resonated with me because I lived that life, and it's talking about the co-parenting. So, what? Why do you advocate for co-parenting? Let's start there.
Well, my views on being a parent and what your ambition as a parent or what you should be striving for as a parent, I feel is important or healthy or, so you see a lot of people talk about success and being successful in all of these in all these areas, owning a company, being an entrepreneur, making X amount of money, whatever it is. But I've always thought that my daughter becomes a better, more compassionate, self-assured human being than I am, then I'd succeeded in life, and being aware and that being my focus and my goal, you know what I mean? Like, obviously I work hard and I do well for myself and all of those things. So that helps
Right.
for my focus, not being in a struggle anymore or in a high conflict situation with my ex or anything like that. Makes it easy to be aware of the things that I'm trying to teach my daughter so that she can be confident and, attack life and have a happy, fulfilling life. And once I got aware of the way that I wanted to raise my daughter and the way that me and my ex were raising our daughter and the kind of stuff that maybe we had going on when we first split up compared to now and the effects that it was having on her, then I started being more aware and seeing just the more negative side of the people who couldn't get along and don't put the kids first. The downstream effects later in life about anxiety and depression and feeling unwanted or, from being used as a weapon between two parents their entire lives or used as a, if maybe, in a lot of situations, say the dad's a good dad, but maybe he doesn't make enough to be able to survive and pay the child support that he's confined to from the court system. Well, then in turn, it gives some women, and it goes both ways. I'm not, but this is the more common scenario.
Yeah.
But then you get you run into the issues where it's like, well, until I get my money, you don't get to see your child. You know what I mean? Regardless of how they are as a parent, you're using that child as a weapon and withholding them from, being with their other parent.
Yeah. What so you brought up something that I touch on a lot because like I said, with me being co-parenting and I split time with my son's mother, we do both do 3 days a week and we do every other Saturday. What's your thoughts on the child support? Because that's where a lot of people get caught up in a struggle. Because some parents, I don't want to say, like you said, we don't want to paint it as just women, but so we say some parents use child support as a weapon,
right,
instead of a benefit,
right,
to actually help the child. They use it as a weapon to hurt the other parent, which sometimes I don't think they realize that. So what's just in general, what's your thoughts on the child support and the child support system?
The sad thing is, in a lot of situations, so if you're married and have children, go through a divorce, everything's wrapped into the court system and is going to be documented on that. You have to these days, everything, you don't have a choice for the courts to be involved. Right. My situation, we were unmarried. And so we don't have any courts involved. And so there's no stipulations on anything. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We
Gotcha.
have been able to work all of these issues out between me and my daughter's mother, and we don't have any issues. But what you do see, you know, if one feels betrayed or hurt or whatever when the relationship's coming to an end, or entitled, then, you know, say you have to pay X amount in child support. So the father's paying, you know, it's typically the father that's paying the mother. You know what I mean? I
Right.
mean, it's just, that's more common.
Reality. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
reality.
And so then say, for whatever reason, like the one common thing tends to be, and I don't know if it's more of an entitlement issue or a, you know, you owe me, I don't want you to succeed because then maybe I won't look as good. But as the father maybe starts making more money or gets into a better career or whatever, it's typically a deal where the mother takes them back to court.
Yep.
They want them to stay in whatever state that they are in, and then wants more money coming out. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
But then you also get, you know, I'm in some circles where it's also communities, but it's more of the stepmother side, you know, the bonus moms and that kind of bonus moms, bonus dads, that kind of deal. And so then you see the same kind of things where the stepmom or the mom will take the dad to court to get more child support raised or whatever.
Yep.
And then when they get a bonus mom, or maybe there's another blended family, then it really starts taxing onto them, because then, you know, now you got more kids at home, and it never seems to, it always seems to go back and forth. It's like a big fight. And it's always like, you know, I feel like da 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 da, but then from the dad's side, then you start getting the animosity that starts creeping in, because they start looking at what the bio mom is doing with the money that's supposed to go to the kids. And then there's still the ones, you know, you see a lot of the stories where the stepmom and the bio dad are still buying all the clothes because the mom's not buying the clothes, or sending them home with food and doing all these things. And then, well, where's all the money that is supposed to go towards the kids, you know? And then they start getting resentful for that. And then it starts becoming back and forth, pushing buttons, purposely triggering each other, using the kids' weapons, using the kids as spies a lot, which is also a horrific thing to be doing. Even if you are thinking that your intentions are pure, when you're grilling the kid for information on the other parent at the other parent's house, and then in turn using that information, you know what I mean? Like you're making your kid double agent spy. You know what I mean? All the time.
I'll go everything. I'll just keep everything you just been saying. I've been nodding my head because I lived that life when the child support, because like you said, me and my son's mother, we wasn't married. We was together for a while. We split up, and then there was no child support. It was, hey, you know, you got these days, I got these days. Our calendar pretty much is the same, even though now we're in the court system. The court mandated these days. And they mandated amount of money,
right?
But we had that before. But it was some things that happened that led to child support that had nothing to actually do with the child. It was some hurt feelings or some things that was said. Then, like you said, then you roll into now that she's getting the money from a paycheck, and I'm looking at her like, okay, so what are you doing with money?
Right.
Now, and like you said, it does grow animosity. Now I'm angry. It's because everything I was doing for the child before child support, I'm still doing with less money. So, like you said, now I'm angry. Now I've got attitude.
Right. And like where, you know, and you'll see it in a lot of, you know, obviously every situation is a little different and case by case, women, men are all, everybody's different. But,
Right.
if you're sitting there and say after, you get all your bills paid, you get your child support paid, you're working 40 hours a week, doing what you can.
Right.
You have $150 a week after everything's paid each week throughout the month for food and whatever you need. If you smoke cigarettes, you buy cigarettes or whatever, coffee, but then like your ex is getting her hair done twice a month, getting her car detailed twice a month or once a month, you know what I mean? Going on trips, but she's single, and you're just kind of looking at it like, and rightfully so, as any person who works hard for their money and really is thinking that it's one thing when you're providing for your children or buying clothes or signing them up for dance or whatever the case may be, but when you're struggling and not able to get ahead, and then you see your children's mother spending $175 to get their hair done twice a month or nails or all of these extra things, when that like they probably don't make, if all the money that you were paying for child support was going to bills and food and school and kids and clothes, obviously nobody's not going to start getting a little bit frustrated. And then when you get maybe you get a raise, or maybe 5 years down the road, you're starting to get comfortable and you're starting to be able to save a little bit of money. And then they take you back to court because you're doing too well. They feel like they deserve, yeah.
Yep.
Well, instead of just, and that's sort of the ping pong or the volleyball volley of it. You know what I mean?
The back and forth.
Like, I don't want them to outshine me. If every situation is a little different. It depends on the two people involved, the mindsets, the way that they view each other, the way that they want to view each other, the way that they view themselves. You know what I mean? You hope that people can get over themselves and get to a place where, like, the better that my ex is doing, the more that I support her. You know what I mean? Like, encourage her. Like, you're doing great, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Neither one of us are ragging on each other about, you have this and I don't have, da 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 da. But we have continued to support and push each other to achieve more and to do better, rather than I'm going to try to push you. I'm going to try to stand on her to make myself look better, or vice versa. You know what I mean?
And I think that's what a lot of people is missing about the co-parenting part is we're still here to help build this child instead of going back and forth. And then, like you said, we looked at, as far like looking at my perspective, I'm looking at not only what she's doing herself, like you said, the hair, the nails done, the car detailing, but then it's things she can do for the child that I can't do because now I have less money. So now I'm giving the child out of, I won't say the bare minimum, but not as much as I could be compared to, while I'm at mommy's house, I got this and I got that at mommy's house. Daddy can't do that because of the situation.
It's and I get the frustration, and I interact and I talk and I hear a lot of different stories, and I would be frustrated too, because essentially you're doing it for them at their mother's house in a lot of times. You know what I mean? Like, if you weren't giving them, depending on the court system and the state and how much you're giving a month, but I mean, I know people that are paying $900 a month in child support, and
I am one of those.
If they had $900 extra a month, they could take the kids on a weekend trip, every couple months or something, and take them to the trampoline park for the afternoon and da 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 da. But when you only have $150, $200 a week after bills, you're mentally you want to save most of that because, you know, if wintertime comes or if your car breaks down, I mean, you got to have something saved up for rainy
Yeah,
day just
because
in
we're saying
case.
because
So really you have like $30-$40 a week of available funds to play with, you know, out of like $150-$200 a week. And so, you know, it mentally and emotionally, and, you know, it sort of it throws a lot of guys into a depressive state or an anxious state or resentful, you know what I mean? Bitter. But the bad thing about all of it is both sides are spending so much time and energy playing that game that typically the kid is probably just sitting in the corner of both houses by themselves playing on it, you know, staring at a TV or a tablet because the parents are more worried about what the other parent's doing than what they're doing for their children.
that's a
Or
good point.
you know, when you know, like when you have your kids or childs,
Yeah,
if you don't have the money because, you know, you're paying a bunch of child support and then the mom's doing whatever with it, you know, and sometimes you got to think about it like once the money's gone, it's not yours anymore. You know what I mean? Like same kind of thought process as giving money to a homeless person.
yeah,
Whether they go buy food or booze, it's not your money. You know, your boss isn't telling you what you can spend your money on when he gives you your paycheck. So like you can't do that to other people as well.
that's true.
But when you're confined to your house because you don't have the extra money to be able to take your kids and do things with, and you're sitting there resentful all day, in a bad mood all day, instead of being present and happy with your kids, you're being consumed. You're still being manipulated, consumed, controlled by your ex, even knowing they're not there saying anything to you. You know what I mean? They are still directly impacting your day, your mood, your emotions, everything that's going on in your life inadvertently. And some of those hurdles, I mean, they're tough. I mean, they're tough hurdles to get through, you know?
Yeah, they are. That's one of the, like you said, my mother had to explain it to me like that. She said, once it go, she said, it's no longer your money. And she said, I think that's where a lot of your anger comes from because you're looking at it still as your money.
Right.
And once that, it took a while for me, right? It took a while for it to click for me. But once that clicked for me, it put me in a better mind state. I looked at it as taxes. I don't,
Right.
you know, I don't get to see that money. I can see it on my paycheck stuff, but I don't actually put it into my bank account. So I had to take a step back and look at it in that way. It's like tax money. I see it, but it ain't nothing I was ever gonna be able to touch anyway.
Right. Right.
So,
and it, you know, it you set you look at the things that it's something you can't control. You can't control what your ex is doing with money that they have. Just like but it's one of the things also that I, you know, as far as when I talk to a lot of people in newer co-parenting or even that have been struggling trying to co-parent for a while, it's one of the boundary things. You know what I mean? Like setting and holding clear boundaries. If you don't want them in your money business, then get your nose out of their money business. What they're spending money on is none of your business.
no, yep.
Unless you want them doing, you know, figuring out what you're spending every dime you have on, because, you know, what you don't want them doing to you, you should not be doing to them.
Exactly.
You know, as a boundary. If you don't want them stalking you on Facebook, don't be stalking them and their friends on Facebook and figuring out where they're going. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
So, but it's, you know, it's hard. It's a process for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. What is some advice you would give people to take steps into better co-parenting? Like you said, for one, is not looking at their Facebook accounts or the money that they spend in. What is some other things?
Like for me, you know, for when I talk to people and you know, like a little background on me, you know, in my co-parenting relationship, we sit together at school functions. We sit together at the sports deals. We talk quite often, but it's 99% solely has to do with what's going on with my daughter at school, sports, dance, whatever. It's not a big, we do holidays together. We'll barbecue in the summertime and this and that. She is in an unmarried blended family. And so it's like me, her boyfriend, his son, my daughter, and then some other family friends that we have here in the area, and it's not weird and nobody makes it weird, but we didn't start like that. You know what I mean? Like all the mistakes that you can make as trying to sort through, but the first thing that helped me, and it's probably the thing that I say to people the most, there's three big things that I went through that started changing and really shaping from conflict to where we are now. But the first one is I had to fucking leave my pity party. Like, you got to leave the pity party. Yes. You got to deal with whatever traumas and baggage that you're dragging around and let the relationship die, grieve it, and then move on. Like, don't go back and forth. Whatever shame, guilt, whatever emotions and baggage that you're dragging from the relationship, whether it be a lifetime of saying, nobody gets divorced. If you get divorced, you failed. If you're carrying around shame like that, because that's how you were brainwashed or influenced growing up through religion or family or whatever, like, you got to deal with all that, because you're not getting anywhere until you sort through letting the relationship go, grieving it. It's gone. It's done. Move on. Second is you got to quit engaging. So for a certain amount of time, and sometimes it even becomes habit, I'll talk to people that have been divorced or trying the co-parenting thing for, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Quit engaging, meaning like they know what your triggers are. You know what their triggers are. So if they're poking and you just don't engage, if they want to throw a fit, drop off day in the McDonald's parking lot, get in your car and drive off. If you have the kids in your car, leave. They can throw a fit by themselves. You do not have to engage in all the pettiness and all the back and forth. And the less that you do engage, the less they're going to do it, because they're not getting that reaction anymore.
They're not getting,
what I mean? If they're not getting the reaction and they're not getting that big fight, and they can't feel like the victim or go cry to their new boyfriend and get the sympathy drama, and all that, what I mean? Whatever the case may be, or go to their mom's house and beat up on you with their mom about how worthless you are, or whatever, what I mean? If you're not engaging and feeding it, throwing gas on that fire, it'll go out eventually, little by little.
I was going to say, it might take some time, but eventually it will.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while. I mean, it depends on how, every person's different. It depends on how addicted they are to that drama. Some people really feed off of chaos and drama, and some people, but as things get less and less and less and start being smoother, and the less conflict and the less arguing and stuff like that, that becomes just as addicting to getting along and being able to just be okay. And then, boundaries are huge. You got to set clear boundaries. You got to hold your boundaries, like the social media thing. There's no double standards. If you don't want them doing it to you, don't do it to them. Don't be driving by their house at 10:30 on Friday night to see if there's somebody over there, blah, 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 if you don't want them doing it to you. Or, with the boundaries also comes with, the double standarding, the boundaries, but there was some rules or guidelines, I guess you would say, that me and my ex had set up very early on, that sort of alleviated or sort of didn't start any fires or let them start, and then having to deal with all these things. We had a couple arrangements that seemed to have worked out really well for us, you know. One being, if either one of us started dating somebody and it was getting somewhat serious, you know, to where they were going to be around our daughter, we got to meet them before our daughter did.
That's
And so
a lot of people don't do that. That's the key.
yeah, and so we got to, you know, we both have the option to get a feel for somebody before they're going to be around our daughter a bunch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or we also set up a deal to where, like, we, you know, it's a little different now because she's a little older, but when we'd split up, my daughter was 2. And so till she got about 6, 7, when she was a little older, we had, and we still do it, but we have first dibs. So neither one of us call a babysitter before we call the other parent. Something comes up when I have her, I text her mom, say, hey, you know, this came up, da 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 da. You got anything going? If she's busy or has plans, then it's a family member to come watch Adeline. Or then it's, you know, finding a babysitter, finding daycare, whatever we got to do, you know. And that, you know, because then you didn't feel betrayed. Like, I don't get to spend time with my kid, but then also, like, you're not spending time with them, so you know,
that's
why wouldn't you go? You know,
that's what I thought when you said it. I was like, that does alleviate the, you can't say, hey, you got the child this day, but you're not even with the child. That
right.
That alleviates it when, okay, hey, I'm giving you the option. Hey, I got something came up. Gotta do you mind? And if you don't, then okay, we'll move on. That also takes a lot of maturity. One of the big things about co-parenting, just in general, it takes a lot of maturity.
Right.
And that takes maturity in saying, hey, I know it's not my day, but I would rather spend time with my child than letting somebody else do it. So that
a lot of, but you have to get to a place where the pettiness, you know, like the first step is let go of the pettiness and leave the pity party. If you haven't been able to kind of do that, that boundary is sort of hard, because then we were never the ones to be like, oh, you'd rather go out with your friends to this concert that may only be you might be able to see this person once every 5 years, that they're going to even be remotely close to where we live. Right. And your friend called you up and has tickets. Oh, you want to do that instead of being a parent to your kid? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't do that. So, like, there was never the anxiety or the big fight that was going to come if I called my ex and said, hey, you know, I got a chance, you know, a buddy that I haven't seen since high school just is randomly in town. There's a bunch of them going out. We're going to go out and have a few drinks tonight. You know, do you got anything going? Do you want to spend time with Adeline, or I can call my mom or whatever? It was never a big deal where, like, I was going to get in a big old fight. Like, oh, you'd rather go get drunk with your buddies than be a dad. Well, then next time it's your weekend, I guess you just don't worry about it if that's your priorities. You know what I mean? We didn't do that to each other, but I know that happens quite a lot. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does. It does. Now, I can't say that as far as my relationship, but like you said, I got buddies that go through the same situation, and that is the argument. Mm-hmm. That, hey, you rather be outside than with your child. Yeah.
Right. And then a lot of those arguments kick off a domino effect, because then you know, your buddy's reaction to that would be, well, last time you went and did whatever and then had a babysitter, but you know what I mean? And then it's a web browser history of every time that you didn't spend, you know, it was your time with your child, but you weren't there the entire 24/7 until you dropped it back off. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah. And some of that is maturity, and you know what I mean? Like, I work a lot, and my ex works a lot, but she works from home. And so when there's no school or it's summertime, we don't really have to worry about daycare and this and that. So even my daughter has always been able to come and go as she pleased. You know what I mean? The rules of my house and the rules of mom's house are the exact same. If you're grounded here, you're grounded there. You can't have the tablet here. You can't have the tablet there. No TVs, no TV. We don't get pitted against each other. We've been a united front very early on, so she doesn't even try because it ain't gonna work. Because I will. She in odd little things, and I'll be like, well, if I call your mom, is she gonna tell me that you need a shower tonight? Fine, I'll take a shower. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and so when she would call, you know what I mean? And even my ex, like you've been at home with her, you work from home, on your computer and stuff, but for 3-4 days straight, you probably need a break. Like, I'm not going to make you feel bad because you want to go to dinner and just be, just be able to, you know what I mean? And that takes a level of maturity to be able to do that, but when it's not being thrown back and forth, it's easy to just be like, you need a break. Just, yeah, she can come over. I'm not doing nothing. Or, yeah, I'll come pick her up. She'll text me and be like, hey, do you want to take Adeline to dinner tonight? I just need, a few hours. Me and my boyfriend want to go for a drive or want to go to a corn maze or, whatever they want to do. And like most of the time, if they want to go down and have a couple drinks and just take a breath from not having, and then take a breath from having a couple kids and not have the dogs running around and all these different things and just be able to just go breathe for a few minutes. Like, if I don't have anything going, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Drop her off. I'll come pick her up. I don't care.
That's how I was, especially like when when we first split up and before the court system and all that stuff got involved. And she would be like, well, I'm ready to go. It'd be something simple as I'm ready to run to the store. It'd be a lot easier if I ain't have a child. Yeah, you bring them. I don't care. I ain't doing nothing but sitting at home. You can bring them if you want to.
Yeah.
Let me ask you though. It's something that you spoke on United Front.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important?
Well, just as harmful as, the parents pitting a kid against the other parent or using them as a weapon or a spy or, withholding them. With my daughter, she's 8, so she hasn't quite gotten to that age yet, but it's coming. You know what I mean? I was a teenager. You were a teenager. We were all 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old.
Right.
You're trying to find your identity. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to be more grown up than you are. And even married couples that have kids that kids will try and push, give them an inch, take a mile of pitting parents against each other inadvertently, but finding the limits on each parent to see what they can get away with, what they can't get away with. And I remember from when I was high school age, trying to find my place in the world and going through puberty and hormones bouncing off and you're trying to, there was friends that I had growing up that had 2 different houses that they would share time at. Yeah. And they got really good at manipulating them because the parents didn't communicate very well. And so they were playing just as much of the parents against each other as the parents, you know what I mean? Like, the parents usually get the bad rap for using the kids as weapons and this and that, but there are a lot of kids
that's
who get very skilled at using parents, but then that also trickles in later into life, and they try doing that with work situations, coworkers, you know what I mean? Becoming manipulative becomes a personality trait, especially if they start honing that around 12, 13, 14 years old. And it's a hard trait to shake, you know what I mean? And it's a rough life to be that person.
It definitely is. one more thing because I ain't gonna hold you long. Before we get out here, it's something that I ask every parent that I talk to, especially when we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about parenting. What is a life lesson that you try to teach your child? Like mine's I always give is don't waste time because time doesn't return. Time doesn't come back. You don't get that back. So
Right, right.
what is one of those things that you try to share with your daughter?
I mean, time is the most precious resource in your lifespan because you can't buy it, you can't lose. I mean, all you can do is lose it. But
Yeah, that's it. That is it.
One thing that I mean is understanding the fact that everybody is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. You know what I mean? There are certain things that I'm aware of, and I've built up my toolbox to try to share with my daughter so that she has more tools and is raised a little bit different than I am. But one main thing that I've tried to instill in her is the self assurance and confidence to walk away. Mm-hmm. So like if you're at school and this girl or boy is supposedly your friend, but they're not treating you like a friend, you don't have to be friends with anybody. I don't care if they're kids if they're our friends, like there's a whole bunch of kids with all these people that we know, and they're all pretty close to the same age. I'm like, I don't care if they're not your friend or don't treat you like a friend, you don't have to be friends with them. Even if your mom and their mom are friends,
you don't have to force
you
it.
don't have to. You do not have to sit and take or be treated any less than you treat others, because I'm trying to teach her to be a compassionate, empathetic, and caring, confident person, and be respectful of all people. And if somebody is going to bully you, disrespect you, act different when other people are, other kids are around, maybe they act like your best friends at home, but then you go to school and they treat you like shit. Like, you don't have to be friends with people like that.
Mm-hmm. That whole act one way in front of you, in front of everybody else who wants to be in private or something like that is completely different. Yeah, I know people like that.
Mm-hmm. But knowing, so mostly I try to just, you're safe. You're an amazing person, regardless of anything. Like, my love for you won't waver, and attack the world. Like, you don't have to allow people to treat you like shit. You need to be able to have difficult conversations. Like, if your friend is hurting your feelings repetitively, like, you say something, talk to them, rather than live that way, feeling that way because they treat you like that, because it's going to sprawl out later in life. If you can't stand up for yourself, or you're not confident saying that this is not right, then you're probably going to get stuck in a job that you hate, being treated very badly and not being paid for what you're doing, because you can't have difficult conversations or stick up for yourself. You know what I mean? And so that's probably one of them, one of the main ones. Just, the world's what you make it.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That is definitely true. Well, JP, and I appreciate you taking the time to come over the pod. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think it's an important conversation to have because, let's be real, a lot of relationships don't work. Then you come out with a child, and co-parenting is important because at the end, like I said, at the end of the day, you're still raising a child.
Right.
You're still raising a human being. Like you said, we want them to be successful human beings.
Right.
It's as simple as that. But like I said, I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, y'all, thank y'all for listening to another episode of Hold Up and Another Thing, presented by Mixed Vibes Media. And we shall catch y'all on the next time.